I know in my last video I let you down and I let myself down. I did a first look and a little kind of mini review on this Temu tent, and I forgot to check that it was waterproof. It wasn't raining at the time and my rain dancing skills just aren't what they used to be. I've managed to get the tent set up just as this rain started. It's slowing down now, but I did manage to pitch an inner pitch first tent in the rain. It wasn't a huge amount of rain, but fear not, I have bought some more scientific equipment for us to do a proper test later. I've come to a permission spot because there's a stream that runs down the side of it, so I can fill up the Rainmaker 5000 and spray the tent as much as we think's needed really to test that it is actually waterproof. I am camping tonight as well, so we'll be able to see what the tent's like for condensation. For now, I'm gonna just chill out for a little bit, let this rain pass. I think it is gonna pass soon, and I'll think about starting to get some things unpacked. As always as well, I've got a couple of bits of new gear to try out. I've got a new power bank to show you, and potentially, depending on how much the temperature drops tonight, maybe a sleeping bag liner as well that I need to use for the first time. Obviously, for the sake of the test, I do kind of hope that the rain carries on, to be honest. It's getting heavier again. I didn't even tell you on my last video, they are all taped seams on this tent. So in theory, the tent should be waterproof straight out of the bag. But we don't believe theories on this channel, do we? We get scientific and we test things out. So let me tell you what I'm thinking. You might have seen this before. It's a Sea to Summit Thermalite Reactor sleeping bag liner. I got it for Christmas from my missus, but I haven't used it yet. And I've bought the Wild Sea sleeping bag tonight. Now it's going to get down to 9 degrees overnight. And I think this bag from memory is quoted at sort of 10 degrees. It's just a thin summer bag really. But what I'm going to try this year as it starts to get colder and we're moving to autumn and winter is layering up my sleep system rather than jumping straight to a really thick sleeping bag. I've got the Nemo Forte 20 last year. I'm going to try layering things like sleeping bag liner with the Wild Sea bag, or bringing my ice flame quilt into the mix, so maybe using the bag and the quilt on top of it, and just experimenting and trying to layer different things to see if it's worth splashing out on a dedicated sort of winter bag, or if you can just layer up some more budget items that give you the flexibility to have a summer bag and then just add a layer or a couple of layers to use it all year round. Forgot my bloody flex tail pump, so I'm gonna have to go old school and use the pump sack to pump my mat up. Sounds like the rain's stopping now, so let's get out of here. I think if anything, one of the first points that might cause an issue is this middle bit, because you've got a crisscrossed seam with two smaller seams next to that as well. There's quite a lot going on there, and if anything's going to give, I would guess it'd be on the top there, but we'll see how it holds up overnight. Glorious sunshine now, it's lovely, but I feel like after all the research and development that went into the Rainmaker 5000, we should at least have one bottle full to give it a go, shouldn't we? Let's go and fill it up. Hello, sheepy. You looking at? This is the little brook slash stream thing where I'm hoping to fill my bottle up, and I'm also hoping that I don't sink. I think I'll go round onto that bridge bit and try and get some from there. I mean, it's easy for you lot to drop comments going, you didn't test if it was waterproof. And I'm here doing all this shizzle like an absolute nutter. All this for a friggin' £50 tent. I think that's as good as we're gonna get. Perfect. Of course I've stung myself on these nettles. That goes without saying, doesn't it? Get out of it. I mean, I don't like to brag, but this Rainmaker 5000 is probably going to be the new standard for testing tents. It can even do a light shower, heavy rain, or a drunk human pissing on your tent. Let's give it a go. What you doing, Ben? Just stood squirting water on a tent because some weirdo on the internet asked me to. Bored now. So that's a litre sprayed on and poured on. I focused most of it around this top area because, as I say, that seems to be, to me anyway, the most likely place that there's going to be leaks. I'm not going to knock any more off. I'm going to leave the water on there that's standing, and then we'll see if anything's made it through to the inside. I've just rolled this door up and you can probably see some water's already dripped from the edges of that door onto the inner. So I've got wet bits on the outside of the inner. I've tried to keep this up there so it doesn't drop any more water down, but that could quite easily just drop down there, and then whatever water's in there will go straight onto that inner. You have got the single zip door on the other side, so if it is wet or raining, that's probably the door that you want to use. Just looking at it as well, with this single zip door, you've got to be careful if you've got it open in the rain, because there's a massive gap between where the zip starts or ends and the outside of the inner. So if it's raining now, I would just be getting probably about a foot of the floor of my inner wet. On the double zip door, if that was open, you'd still have a gap that was exposed, but it's not as big as the gap on the other side. So I'm just going to get my air mat blown up. I'm still using the Light Tour 5.8R mat, still going strong, and it's the only mat I've got now, so long may it continue. Still using the flex tail pillow as well. There is a Xped one, Xped Mega Pillow I think it's called. Looks massive and looks really decent, but it's like 40 quid. If anybody's tried one of those, drop a comment and let me know. Let me know if you think it was worth it or not. Because while this is the closest thing to perfection that I've found so far, I kind of sleep with it backwards so the high bits on my neck. It's still not perfect, but 40 quid for a pillow is a bit ridiculous, isn't it? Unless it is the most comfortable pillow in the world. Still amazes me how much down compressors. You think I'd have got over it by now, wouldn't you? I mean, yeah, it probably is partly because there's hardly any down in it, but whatever. Let me just check what it says. 11 degree comfort, 6 degree transition, and -8 risk. So yeah, 9 degrees tonight. It's probably less than the limit of this. So I might need to crack out that liner. I love this bit where you're all set up. Sun's starting to head down. It's only 5:30, but you can tell it's on its way down. I think it gets dark about 8:30 now. Nights are drawing in. I'll think about getting something to eat soon, I think. What am I having to eat? I heard you cry. I've got one of the Decathlon mashed potato and mincemeat meals. Basically a cottage pie that's been mashed up with a bit of cheese in it. Oh my god, why have I put my flex tail pump in my food bag? Dumbass! For my stove, I've just got my 650ml titanium pot with a little gas stand thing, and then my trusty BRS stove. I've got a couple of other stoves that have just come today from Fire Maple to try out. One of them's like their version of the Soto Windmaster, and then I think the other one's a bit like a pocket rocket, but I need to have a proper look at them. So I'll be bringing both of those out on my next camp. So let me get my food sorted, and then I'll show you that new power bank as well, because it is pretty nifty. How posh am I with Evian water, eh? 8 minutes for that one. Make sure when you stir them as well you get into all the corners, otherwise you just end up like eating chalk. It's horrible. Tent feels dry on the inside now, so maybe it is condensation. But I think some of this is missing the point really. You know, it's a £56 tent. I wouldn't recommend that you take any tent at that sort of price point out in torrential rain anyway. I mean, obviously if you're out and it starts to rain while you're out, you want to know that it's going to be all right for a little bit, but check the forecast, you know. Do your best to avoid it in a budget tent. I think it's only on YouTube that people purposefully go out and camp in bad weather anyway. It's all about the views, isn't it? That was all right. Like I say, I've had it before. I think, to be honest, I'm getting a bit bored of these dehydrated meals now. What I tend to do is have these in sort of spring and summer. You know, it's light later and you're not really bothered about eating until later on. Just as a quick meal before you go to sleep. Through autumn and winter, when you're spending a lot more time sort of tent bound, I like to bring a little frying pan along and make a bit more of a deal. Make a deal of my meal. So I think I need to flip and start doing that again. It's probably going to be the best way to test those new fire maple stoves anyway, I would imagine. I did say on the tent review video, but this is definitely not a 2-man tent. So this is a 25-inch wide, or 62 centimeters I think it is, wide mat. You can see it's jammed right up against the edge there, and all I've got is enough space really to put my rucksack. So it's a generous size as a 1-person plus kit, but you'd struggle to get 2 people or even 1 and a kid in here, I think. I will warn you, it might just be me that got excited about this, but I think it's amazing, game changer. So I've got an Anker power bank here. It's a 5,000 milliamp hour power bank. It's really, really light. It's just got a USB-C connection on it, but it's also MagSafe. So I've got an old iPhone 13 mini with a MagSafe case on it, and the power bank just clips on, sticks on, and starts charging your phone. Now, because it's MagSafe, that's really strong, so that's, you know, not going anywhere. And while that's charging my phone, I can connect something via USB-C, like my watch or my head torch or anything that I need to charge alongside my phone. But this obviously means that I've not got extra cables to bring. I can charge my phone while I'm holding it, or while I'm filming with it, or taking photos, or whatever I'm doing. It's just quite a neat solution. And that was, I think, about 24 quid from Amazon. So not cheap. You can get cheap ones, but I do always go for Anker power banks. They just seem to last longer and perform better than the other brands that I've tried. You can see bits on the top of the tent where I've just let the water sit, how it's soaked into the material. See the difference in colour there? There is still some beaded on there, but a lot soaked in. You can see bits on the sides as well, especially here. Look where the guy lines held some water, and underneath it, it's just soaked into that polyester. It's not dripping or anything underneath, but you can feel that it's a little bit damp. It just feels a little bit like a light condensation under there, but in sustained heavy rain, or even like a medium rain, it'd probably start to come through. And then you're looking at really whether it would start to drip down onto the inner and then through the inner, or work its way down the connection points. I've seen that before on tents. So what are we saying about this Desert Fox Temu tent? I'm a bit torn, I think, because it's 56 quid, which kind of sets your level of expectation, but then if they're advertising it with a 3,000mm hydrostatic head, I honestly don't think it has got that. But then if they advertised it as a starter tent for sort of people getting into wild camping, taking it out on, you know, fair weather camps to see if they're into wild camping, or see if they enjoy it, see if it's something that they could get into, then it's probably a fair game. But I just think they've gone too far by advertising it at that sort of level of waterproofness. I don't know. Let me know what you think and drop a comment. Last thing to try out really is what it's like for condensation, so we'll see in the morning when I've battened down the hatches all night. It's just getting on for 7 o'clock now, and some of that water is still beading out there and not soaking in, so I don't know what's going on with it. So I'm just going to chill out for a bit now and then get some sleep. So we'll see in the morning what the condensation's like and whether or not I need to use the sleeping bag liner, because it is due to drop to just 9 degrees tonight. And literally, just as I said, I don't think the tent's waterproof, it started raining again. So I guess we're going to find out, aren't we? Quick hack for any specky four-eyed campers like me: if you've got doors that are double zipped, pull them around towards your head end, and then you can slot the glasses through the zip, and then they're hung up there out of the way. You're not going to roll over onto them or squash them during the night in your sleep, and you can easily find them when you wake up. What a night. So let me try and summarise. I did start to feel the cold about 3 o'clock this morning, so I cracked out the Sea to Summit sleeping bag liner, and that instantly made me feel quite a lot warmer. They claim that that adds about 8 degrees to your sleeping bag. I don't think that's true, but I will keep testing it. But it definitely did the job for me last night and saw me through that dip in the temperatures. The tent, I managed to get the inner to touch the outer at the bottom of the tent, so I ended up getting the inner a little bit wet. I had quite a few slugs trying to get in during the night as well, which is always fun. But then this morning the condensation in there is just crazy. The water that was on there from the rain last night has just stayed on it all night. So the rain stopped about 9 o'clock. It's now, what are we on? 6:45 in the morning, and all that water's just still sat there on the tent, so nothing's beaded off, nothing's run off. It's just soaked in really. So for me, I can't really recommend this tent. I've had a look this morning, and currently the Eurohike Temu 2 is on offer at Go Outdoors for £35 plus an extra 15% off, so you can get that tent for 30 quid. And if you're just thinking about getting started with wild camping and you're thinking about giving it a go, that's a tent that I would probably recommend. It's a really spacious tent. It's not the lightest, it's 2.7 kilos, so it's nearly a kilo heavier than the Temu tent. It has got fiberglass poles as well, so it's something that you probably want to use just to make sure that you enjoy the process of wild camping and you enjoy the hobby, and then you would upgrade it further down the line. Got a nice sunrise coming up behind that hill though. It's always a boner. If you've finished listening to me moan about the tent and you're thinking none of those things are really big issues for me, or even if you're not able to afford the £30 for a Eurohike Temu 2, I am going to give this tent away. So if you do want a chance at winning it, just comment on this video with hashtag Temu and I'll pick an unlucky winner in a couple of weeks. And don't forget as well, if you made it this far, you're entitled to a free channel subscription. Just click the button down below to claim it. That's me about packed up. As always, thanks for watching. Leave no trace, respect your elders, and don't count your chickens before they've hatched.